Meantime, Massachusetts Republicans are feeling a sense of momentum. They believe riding election wins at the state and federal level with an eye on securing a congressional seat come 2026.
NBC 10 political reporter Matt Prichard has more in an exclusive sit-down interview with Mass GOP Chairwoman Amy Carnevale.
Amy Carnevale, Mass GOP Chairwoman, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about November, and specifically when it comes to the state. How are you viewing this moment for the GOP in Massachusetts?
We held on to all of our incumbents running for re-election at the state level, and we actually added to that in the state Senate. We saw the vote for President Trump increase in the state. So we feel great, actually, going into the next cycle.
What do you make of the fact that President Trump did the best that he's done in Massachusetts?
I think if you look at the areas where President Trump did well, it tends to be more of the working areas of Massachusetts, down in Fall River, New Bedford, Lawrence, some of those cities that have really experienced tough times. And I think it's a reflection of voters really wanting change and feeling like the Biden administration was not delivering for them and the Healy administration here in Massachusetts.
I think a lot of people would describe a Massachusetts Republican as maybe being a little bit more moderate, more centrist, whether that's a Charlie Baker or a Mitt Romney. Do you feel like that's changing?
Yeah, I do think that Republicans generally across the nation and here in Massachusetts, they are becoming a little more of a populist party, both nationally and here in Massachusetts. And I think we saw that at the election.
Is that a good thing to have more populism?
I think it's showing the fact that the Republican Party is really answering to the people, and also showing that the Democratic Party is losing support from kind of key constituencies here in Massachusetts.
We talked about gains at the State House, but certainly still struggling to crack that congressional delegation.
Absolutely. You know, this past cycle was about stabilizing the Republican Party here in Massachusetts and adding some seats at the state level. And looking ahead to 2026, we will be looking at the federal level. And I think when you think about federal policies today, it's obvious why we need a Republican at the federal level to help be that advocate with the White House and with the administration for policies that are important in Massachusetts. So we'll be competing hard in a number of the congressional races in 2026.
I'm sort of thinking about, Ed Markey. Obviously, we know he's going to be up for re-election, an older candidate. Many people are looking for younger voices. Is that a race that you think Republicans could capitalize?
Yes. So I absolutely think we'll run a strong candidate against Ed Markey. He's been in Washington for 50 years. A lot of people in Massachusetts do think it's time for a fresh face, new energy, new enthusiasm. And we've heard from at least 2 Republicans who would present a strong challenge thinking about running for that seat.
Are you going to tell us who they are?
Not today. I'll leave that to them.
If you could wave your magic wand and put the perfect Republican candidate forward to challenge a Democrat in Massachusetts, what does that look like?
I think it depends a little bit on the office that you're seeking. So whether you're thinking about the gubernatorial seat, you want somebody with some experience on policy issues on Beacon Hill. If you're thinking about the U.S. Senate seat, you're thinking about somebody who knows what it takes to be successful in those policies that make businesses and individuals successful in Massachusetts. So it depends a little bit on the seat, but again, it's ultimately it's somebody who can relate to voters in Massachusetts.
For you personally, you just won another term here as party chair for Mass GOP. What's your sort of vision for this party in the years to come?
Yeah, so my vision is really now to grow the party. The first term was really about stabilizing the party, holding our own, working on some of the infrastructure of the party, so to speak. Too often our party had been involved in kind of fights among ourselves and not really focusing on our objective, and that's winning seats. And so now, looking ahead to 2025 and the municipal races in 2026, we are kind of full steam ahead on candidate recruitment, candidate training, raising money to be able to support candidates and ultimately win seats and be competitive.
Let's move up to the federal level now. A bunch of tariffs announced across the board for countries all over the world. Do you think this actually moves America in the right direction?
Certainly, there's going to be a negative impact initially in some sectors, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. The vision of this administration administration is that ultimately that's going to balance itself out.
So you don't put much stock in the stock market dropping through the floor?
We're seeing a short-term negative impact. But again, I think if we see some of those long-term benefits for trade to benefit U.S. companies, we'll see the stock market adjust.
Let's pivot over to immigration now. We've seen ICE raids happening here in Massachusetts, in Boston, and Democrats in particular have had a really emotional and visceral response to it. What do you make of how they've responded to all this?
I don't understand why Democrats are so outraged at deporting immigrants who are committing crime. As a Massachusetts Republican, I frankly, we support these efforts to make our state safer. Certainly recognizing that immigration is the heart of America in a legal way, and care should be taken to treat these individuals with respect.
When it comes to the tough student in particular, just one instance?
I'm interested in learning more about that situation. She was here as a PhD student. We are told that she made statements supporting Hamas, which is been declared a terrorist organization. Assuming that's true, she's being in the United States is a privilege, not a right.
Federal funding cuts as well as firings at the federal level. DOJ has really gone through a lot of different places. Is this necessary? Is it worth the pain that many federal employees are feeling being laid off?
Certainly I think our federal government is ripe for re-examination. Many of our agencies have become far too bureaucratic and lost sight of their mission. They are supported at taxpayer expense. So certainly I think it's appropriate. The fact that our federal budget deficit is so high currently, to have this realignment and reexamination of federal spending.
The governor's office seems to be one of the main political positions in Massachusetts that Republicans have been able to secure over the years. Do you feel like that candidate is out there to challenge Governor Healey and win?
The view is that the current administration is not serving our citizens, so much so that we have several Republicans, in fact, several strong Republicans thinking about running at this current time.
Amy Carnevale, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Really comprehensive interview there. We got a lot, understood a lot. So
last week we had Democratic chair, this week Republican chair.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.